Oh yeah.
So we live. Yo, welcome to Beat People Podcast, episode 43. And so this is our pre-NAMM discussion, pre-Winter NAMM 2019. Last time we were on the air, it was, I don't know, was it 2 weeks ago? And all through the whole thing, people were asking us about this one device. And I knew I had it already, but I couldn't be talking about it. So we'll get a chance to, as a matter of fact, because of that, I couldn't be talking about it. I didn't even acknowledge anytime anybody mentioned it in the chat.
Yeah,
so at any rate,
I just acknowledged it for you because I was like, hey, I ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right, no doubt. So at any rate, this is episode 43, and we can finally kind of talk about a couple things. And there's been a few more announcements for NAMM. So let's just go around. We got the typical suspects in the room. What up, D?
What's going on, man? I'm just here putting stickers on a case to make it look cooler.
That is the most important thing, and I get it.
Oh man.
All right, yo. Hey, what up, Ken?
What's going on, man? I'm here I've been editing a video for a while now, so which I should have up probably a couple hours after we finish this show because it's almost done. So I'll have a new video up pretty shortly.
Dope. That's dope. What's the video?
Oh, you're gonna just
you don't want to share it?
No.
No, okay, never mind.
It's actually
no, never mind.
No, it's cool because honestly it's way overdue. It's the Qubit scanned VCO. I've been wanting to do a video on it for a while. I actually shot videos for it twice already, and one time the files got corrupted. The other time I just wasn't happy with it. So that's how it goes sometimes. So I shot another video. And then, yeah, man, it's such a strange module, like trying to describe it. So I was like, you know what, let me just kind of do it this way. And, so I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And it's just a cool module, man. It's just something that I figured I would do a video on.
Yeah, that is a dope module, man.
And you don't really see much about it out there like that. So that was another reason that I was like, you know what, it needs to be shown.
Yeah. Wait, I got a problem. I'm running out of coffee, so we're gonna have to end the show now. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. See you guys.
Sorry.
All good. Hey, so what we got on deck, man? Y'all want to talk about the Force?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
The Force, what's that? I heard about the APC Live.
So yeah, that's what's tripped out what they call it, the APC Live. I don't know if that was just a leak or if it really got changed. All I've ever seen is the Force. So for me, I've been posting stuff. I got this joint last month sometime, and I had some travel, and when I got home, and it was there. So all the stuff that I've been posting since like Christmas has been sequenced on the Force. And so a lot of cats was on some of those Instagram videos like, yo, what are you using to sequence it? And I just either didn't answer or said the MPC. But if I said the MPC, that was a lie because I've been using the Force. So that's
not a horrible lie though, because it's kind of
it's got
some similar groundwork to it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is that what I want people to know that it's not an MPC.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Let's talk about that because it's not, but it is, but it's not.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing is that they didn't shy away from in the advertisement. They didn't shy away from saying MPC sampler. Like they outright say, look, this is the sampler from the MPC. Like this is the editing, and so it says that stuff right up front, which is great because then it kind of lets people know. Well, look. These there are shared elements, and it will be nice to see how they how they interact together, how growth on one platform is going to trickle over to the other platform and vice versa,
Definitely. And I think that's super important for people to know because from as soon as the news of it dropped, I seen a lot of people automatically saying, well, now the MPC-X, this is why they were saying that it was going to be discontinued. And no, because it's not the same thing. The sequencer isn't even the same. It's not.
Yeah, no, the sequencer is not the same. It is, it's clip launching workflow. You know what I mean? Scene and clip launching workflow. But I think that's what I dig about it because Ken and I are kind of cut from the same cloth in the fact that we ain't Ableton dudes.
Yeah.
We got Ableton and we've used Ableton, and I've had a push, but we aren't Ableton dudes. We are really.
I said I am.
Yeah, and I know you are, right? Not that I can't use Ableton.
I still have mine right here, and it's not connected right now, but I pull it out from time to time. It's, you know, Ableton has its own workflow, and it's Ableton is one of those. I mean, really, most gear these days that is like main DAW or sequencer or whatever that I try to create in, they all seem to have this like, okay, well, this one's good at this type of thing, this one's good at that, and then there's always these things where I'll get into the flow of creating, and then I'll be like, oh, well, why do I have to take 5 extra steps to do this when on this other platform I can do it like that, and vice versa? You know what I mean? Like, it's not. Yeah. It's not just an Ableton flaw. It's across the board. There's, you know, in different areas, different things are much better. I find Machine is like my fastest sketch pad for taking a raw sample into the machine, editing it, sound designing it, kind of getting it how I want, and then moving forward. But then when it comes to like actually doing something as simple as freaking automation curves, you might as well throw Machine out the window because it's terrible at that kind of stuff, you know? So it's like, you know, and then on the flip side, on Push, I love how Push is laid out and everything, but like the browser's fairly terrible, and the when you try to edit samples directly from the hardware of Push, it kind of falls down, in my opinion.
Well, you can't edit samples in Ableton.
Exactly, like that, which is crazy to me because it's like Ableton is such an audio-centric platform, you know.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing with I'm surprised you can't edit samples in Ableton. What is that about? But I can honestly say
you can't.
Well, you have to use an external editor. When I say edit audio, you have to use an external audio editor. Like, for instance, in order to do exponential fading or logarithmic fading, or in order to do normalizing, all these things that you want to do, you have to use an external audio editor.
Yeah, you could do really basic stuff like truncating and, you know.
Yeah.
But even that from the controller, it also, a lot of the times it's going to involve you converting from simpler to sampler, and, you know, like there's just like way too many steps involved to do the most basic of things that you would think is like, you know, easy. And you're just going to be like, oh, okay, well, this can obviously do this. But no. But I mean, keep in mind, it's like I said, each one of these platforms has things that they fall down to, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's kind of the thing. I'm just like, well, when I saw the Force, I was like, oh man, this is something different than an MPC. This isn't even an MPC. They're borrowing the technology of the MPC and they're using everything that they've learned from building a standalone device, but it's not the same sequencer. It's not the same workflow. Nope. It's not even targeted to the same demographic.
It's not by far.
Yeah. So I feel you.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you know, the thing that I enjoy about it, even in at this stage of its development, the thing that I enjoy about it is kind of bringing this sort of clip launching workflow and the 8x8 grid, right? The 64 pads to what I'm familiar with from an MPC. Because once you dig in, despite the shifting that has to happen, that's one of the things I'm like, there's a lot of shifting to get to stuff. But despite the shifting that has to happen to get to some of the features, I mean, it really has a good portion of MPC stuff that's in there. Like what I showed in my review is like when you go into certain screens, it says track edit, but you know, you're gonna get the GUI interface of you know, the synths that's in the MPC. If you say track edit and it happens to be a drum track where your samples are on 16 pads or spread across 64 pads, you'll get the GUI from the MPC of the program edit. You know what I mean? And look at the size of it though. The one thing I wish is that it was a little more compact for travel, because having something like this, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little on the thick side maybe at most, but like I feel like the size is not bad. Like for what it is, for the fact that let me put it to you this way. So I have the MPC Live sitting here, and it's pretty dope for travel. It's a little on the thick side, but that's all right. But the thing about it that kind of slows it down as far as how portable it actually is the fact that in order to really play keyboard parts, you need a keyboard, right? Like a MIDI keyboard. With the Force, you don't need that because you have that 64 pad layout. So for me, that 64 pad layout is totally worth the extra space. The only thing on that I would really probably have griped about if I was going to change how it was done is the crossfader. It could have been a capacitive strip instead of an actual crossfader. I just worry about it getting broken off, throwing it into a bag or something. The other thing is that screen could have been angled up, and it didn't have to be angled up much, but angle it up to the top of where the top of the knobs sit so that the back of the screen would be flush with as tall as the knobs are. You know what I mean?
I could agree with the angled screen bit, but you know what? Also, here's the thing. Although I think it could have been a little more compact, I have this mono controller bag that's, you know, a pretty decent size.
Yeah.
It's made for DJ and stuff.
Those are awesome bags too.
Yeah, they're really dope bags. But so I'm not too worried about, you know, it being travel friendly because I know that I could throw it in there and go about my business.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. So,
and we all know Ken travels with the most awkward, you know, things. Like he'll have a Matrix brew in his truck.
Yeah, he will. Powering it off the car battery.
Yeah.
No comment.
So you know what I'm saying? This is still going to travel with me without a doubt. Right. But yeah, there's still, I mean, it's a little heavier than the X, I think, but the X is a little more awkward as far as the width, you know? And I agree with the angled screen. That would have been much better because I'm putting it on a laptop, on this little cheap IKEA laptop stand.
Yeah, I use
that
it.
Works.
Yeah.
That's
what I put my push on when I use push, and that's actually what I have. What is this thing called? Oh, Machine. I have Machine with one of the smaller white ones right here, and I have my MPC Live on one as well.
Well, here's my question. So I'm guessing from the research, they're focusing on it being more for live use. So most of the time, guys are standing up when they're playing live, and I'm just being objective.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's exactly what the case is.
Objective. So for me, the angled screen doesn't make sense when you're trying to touch down while you're standing.
But
yeah, but if
it was an adjustable screen, that would work out because you could put it at whatever angle.
No, of course. I'm just saying they kind of focused on the live aspect.
Certainly,
adjustable adds a whole nother set of issues. But here's my point with that is that to that same effect, so are the Denon brand CDJs that they do, and that stuff is all angled. You know, like you know, and keep in mind, Denon is, you know, tightly tied in with Akai. It's, you know, under the same umbrella. So it's like, to me, they could have kept everything kind of uniform in that case. But if I was going to go for an angle, I wouldn't want it to be any more height wise than what the knob tops are. You know what I mean? Like I would want it to all be so that I'm all about, like, if you have a tighter bag than that beautiful mono bag that you have, if you have something tighter that if you slide it into something, nothing's going to catch, nothing's going to break, that kind of thing.
Did you guys see that Denon released that standalone DJ system with the MPC X screen on it? Yeah,
that thing's looking serious.
It looks crazy.
But it still uses
speaking of the MPC X, I wanted to address some there's still these rumors going around that the MPC-X is going to be discontinued. Like, let's cut that out. Let's just cut that out. I think to give it some framework and some perspective, saying that because the Force has been released, the MPC-X is going to be discontinued is like saying, hey, BMW released a brand new motorcycle. Now they're not going to make SUVs anymore, or they're not going to make cars anymore. It's a different, just because they both have wheels doesn't mean that one's going to cancel out the other. If you see the parallel that I'm drawing there, like, this is for a different customer base, a different sort of mindset. And it just doesn't make sense for MPC or for Akai to stop making an MPC because they are going into or diversifying their offering at this point. It just never makes sense, and it's not the case. So if anybody out there wonders if they're going to be doing that. They're not doing that. It's going to have its regular life cycle. Will they discontinue it at some point? Every MPC has always gotten discontinued at some point. But MPC X's and MPC Lives, their fates are not sealed because the force is hitting.
I think they got a long road ahead of them still.
They got a long road
still
ahead of them.
a
lot of development and a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and we always have to remember Akai has been over-speccing their machines.
For what? Right, exactly. That's what you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, they've been building them so that they're over-specced. So it's just over-speccing. Oh, my bad. I just hit the
That was good. You threw us in the matrix.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's me.
And it's one of the things that I really kind of look at this about is, so in order for them to do the force, they did not just put Ableton Live into a box. They developed their own kind of form of what Live would be in a mobile platform, and that's interesting. I want to know where that travels to as far as it's young, so that platform is going to get expanded. That software is going to get expanded, and that software can be opened up inside of Ableton Live, and you can export as live sets, right?
Yeah.
So
you
like that,
can.
I mean, that could be really big in the long term. Thinking about because people talk about MPC becoming a DAW, machine becoming a DAW, that kind of thing, and like this is a step more towards that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited. I think there's so many possibilities of what can happen with it.
There's a lot of possibilities, and I actually like the idea that they're expanding what they're offering. And so another thing is I can understand the disappointment of, like, there's a comment here that says Force still has 2 gigs of RAM. I'm really disappointed.
Okay,
so I want to address that.
I want to address that too, because I see a lot of people saying that, but it's like, do you really use up all that? Like most people.
Well, let's think about, why people are saying that is because this is a computer age. This is not a computer.
Well, if you're dealing with longer loops, though, which is kind of what Force can be aimed towards, then yeah, you could hit that ceiling pretty easy. But if they were to enable something like disk streaming, then it wouldn't hurt so bad.
Right. That makes sense. But then there's also the fact that all of these machines, the Force, the MPC Live, the MPC X, they're all hybrid machines. So standalone is one way of working with them. And having a standalone machine, it comes with its own limitations.
Yeah.
And right. So then that is it. But then you can always go computer based as a controller when you need more power of a computer. So I don't get when people compare a piece of music gear to a computer. A computer is always going to be more powerful, and if you prefer the power from a computer, get a computer-based situation and work with that. That's just the way it is.
Devil's advocate just for a quick
second?
Sure. So, after digging into the Live a bit, like the underside of it, and kind of checking out what ticks on this thing, there is a version of that same board. It's a computer on a chip board or a computer on a PCB. And there's a version of it that has 4 gigs RAM. It's the exact same computer, exact same board, everything, except instead of 2 gigs, it's 4 gigs. You can't buy them anywhere. They're not available anywhere. So I don't know if Akai had bought them out or like got an exclusive license to it or what. But that board came out back in like 2015, and it's got 4 gigs RAM. So it's completely conceivable that they could have done that.
Maybe.
But that's not what's there. So since that's not what's there, you got to look towards disk streaming. Yeah,
and I think the possibilities are endless. Go ahead, D. I know you want to speak on this.
A lot of OSs are limited to certain amounts of RAM being used at a certain time, and depending on how the code is written, it could probably only use a certain amount of RAM. So I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm saying it is what it is.
It is.
2 gigs is way more than 128 megabytes of RAM that we had, like, from sampling back in the day. Like,
and that's the stuff I think needs to be said. Like, this is not like, that dude had an early Force or MPCX, so he's just kind of on the side of Akai. No, I ain't with that. This is the situation. I've been doing IT for over 20 years. I've been making music for a long time, being around music gear and stuff. And the specs of music gear never match computers. You know what I'm saying? And the workflow and firmware is installed on music gear. Operating systems are installed on computers. And as Dee was just saying, even operating systems, what was it, Windows 7 or Windows, whatever it might be, you could have 8 gigs of memory or whatever it might be, but you can only address 4 gigs of them. Or it's stuff like that happens all the time. Yeah. You can have 16 gigs of memory in your computer, but your program or your operating system may only address half of that as a ceiling. So a lot of the stuff is just kind of like pie in the sky, you know what I mean? And
bottom line is that there's ways around it. Like if they choose to do it, if they do disk streaming, which would certainly help out on the MPC as well, and it would certainly help out for guys that are doing like long live sets and that sort of thing. There's ways of getting around it. If they open up disk streaming, then yeah, that'd be dope, you know. And then I think you'll see a lot of that griping go away. You throw a SSD in that bad boy, and then you know you can stream straight off of that. Should not be a problem.
Right. You know, and I think that's a worthy upgrade. Go for it.
Skeppy 89 just mentioned Digitac only has 1 gig and can work wonders. And here's the difference. Digitac only has 64 steps.
And it's mono.
And it's mono. So the processor, and it's streaming from the disk. So
and its use case is completely different.
A whole different. Yeah. So the fact that the brain in that machine only has to process 64 steps. Right? So think about this. It's 64 steps. And then you're doing all your conditional triggers, you're doing all this stuff still at a 64 step increment, as opposed to an MPC that has 999 available steps. Now
in every track.
Yeah, right. Now imagine the use case of like, yo, like I'm not you can't do automation for 999 steps without blowing up your machine. It's gonna be, you're gonna make that heart crash.
So, yeah.
I mean, if you really want to get down to it and say like, oh well, the Digitech can do wonders with 1 gig. I mean, the SP1200 could do wonders with what, 10 seconds. So
this is the key. You guys are making the points that I want to make, because
I think that's a false argument, though. Let me just say that outright.
Well, first. No, like, but I don't think it's necessarily a false argument. I think what the case is, we are in a different age of music making where computer-based music making is the crux of electronic music production. So people get caught up in those specs coming from a computer mind state, like a frame of reference of computers, and we get caught up in those specs. And let's just be honest, man. I mean, if people could see some of the specs from the machines that some of the greatest songs ever were made on in the 90s and early 2000s, they might as well not even be specs. You know what I'm saying? But right. So I think what the difference is, I think people got to keep it in perspective. This is a music making machine that has firmware. It is not an operating system. An operating system goes on a computer, and the use case is very different and very vast, and it needs to be the most powerful stuff you can have. You know what I mean? You can use that for that.
If you really want to get down to technicalities on it, I mean, it runs a version of Linux. Like,
well, it does run a version of Linux. It does
have an operating system on it. Let's not.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, it's a different thing. I mean, your refrigerator has TVs on it now.
I just get dirty about it when you're saying that. I'm like, well, you know, sure, it's hardware, but it is a computer running software inside of it. Like,
yeah, but it's not. It's a machine. It's not a computer. It's not like a computer for computing. It's a computer for a specific use case, and that's what it is. And when people are talking about the specs in the same sense that they would talk about computer specs for use for computing and screen and all that kind of stuff, that's a different thing that shouldn't be put into the lane of like music gear. It's just not the same.
Also, Corey, in order for something to have a Mac OS or iOS or Windows, it has to be approved by a certain standard, right? From Mac OS or iOS or what, if you develop a software for those things, it has to be approved, and I believe that it has to be licensed in order to put that logo on your Bluetooth, anything. You have to have a license.
All those are licensed items. Yep.
You have a license for that. Therefore, it makes the cost go up.
Certainly.
Right? For the device. So imagine if the MPC was running a version of the Mac OS X, right? You guys remember the Miko?
Yep.
You guys remember
Then too, you're also beholden to those operating systems lifespan, right?
True.
That's not smart business.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Bottom line is like the specs, in my opinion, are not really holding it back in a major way. Like, you know, you could gripe about like, oh, well, I could have more of this, I could have more of that. And, you know, and that's fine. But if you look at what's there, if you look at the way that it's spec'd out and everything, and you look at the possibility of like, hey, they've kind of commented like that it's possible that disc streaming could happen. And if it does happen, then that argument just goes away. Like, you don't have to worry about that, you know?
So also, one thing I noticed is that the new Denon controller also has the Ethernet jack on it.
Yeah. Right? And that's...
So it's telling me a couple things. First of all, I can plug right into my router and download my sounds from Splice or whatever the case is with fast connection if I don't want to use Wi-Fi. Or it tells me, you know what, if I have one of these Denon DJ controllers that can
connect it that way,
be synced to my Akai Force, and now I have a clip launching thing and I can DJ at the same time. So that opens up a whole bunch of other possibilities. And think about the hardware. There's CV connectors on the Force. We haven't seen any of that in the videos yet. That means they have plans. There's plans.
So yeah, and I could tell you, actually, that's one of my favorite features on it, obviously. I mean, so it's a pretty powerful thing. I think putting CV on the Force is where they missed the boat on the MPC Live. Right, you know what I mean?
The Live had CV on it.
Yeah, it should have. I feel like if they were gonna say MPC has CV, then it should have been on both products, the X and the Live. And I think that they may have caught up with some of that feedback, and that's why they put it into something like the Force. But at the same time, it makes a lot of sense on a device like the Force, where you can control your modular. You got 4 CV gates outs, right? You can control your modular. You could connect also a MIDI device with the MIDI in, out, through. And I mean, you just have a lot of flexibility there. And what I've been doing is connecting it to my O-Coast and to my modular, making, you know, complete jams, and then recording the audio from what I've programmed with the CV. And you know what I mean? Just capturing the audio into a clip and making full joints that way. And it's a comfortable workflow. You know what I'm saying? I dig the way you work that out.
Yeah, man, it's super dope. Like, I think, well, here's the thing, because the MIDI is so cool on the MPCs too, you could easily get a MIDI to CV, you know.
Yeah, certainly.
Right, and then use that.
Without a doubt.
So there's
options.
It's flexible.
Yeah.
And it'll be even more flexible if it was on it, but you know. It is
that's why I can't front on the MPC Live. I actually like the format. I've not had an MPC Live, but I definitely think it would have been cool to have CV on it. But anybody that uses Eurorack know that there's a device called a MIDI to CV converter.
Yeah.
There's plenty of devices out there called MIDI to CV converters that you could use a MIDI device to control your Eurorack with that and send CV out of it. So there's options in that way. But I can definitely say I've enjoyed being able to easily and quickly capture audio clips or do audio tracks. Also, somebody was saying, wait, only 8 audio tracks? Well, the MPC-X and the MPC Live only has 8 audio tracks and standalone as well, right? But that's not the only kind of tracks you could do. You could do MIDI tracks. You could do CV tracks. You can do drum tracks, which are basically MPC programs. You know what I mean? And what I've noticed is if you were to get to a point where you ran out of audio tracks, well, then you could take whatever audio you wanted to capture it, and throw it on into a drum program on a pad and fly it in a clip. You know what I mean? Or you can capture that audio, chop it up across 64 pads, and fly it in any way you want to fly it in. So the options are there, and that's the same stuff that you use with the MPC line as well.
Also, Corey, man, if you can't do damage with 8 audio tracks, don't even.
Damn right. Word life.
Audio, you know what 8 audio tracks is? That's like kick, snare, hi-hat. No, kick, snare, overheads, boom. That's your whole drum set. then bass,
Yeah.
guitar, then Rhodes and mono. You still got 2 tracks left over.
That's true. And that's when you're looking at from a live a live band sort of perspective with live instrumentation. So you can do real damage with that. And the other thing is, I mean, if you're talking about electronic music, this is a thing that captures loops and stuff and captures clips. But at the same time, you got the drum track. So your drums are going to be on one track unless you have multiple drum tracks, but that's still not touching the audio tracks. You know what I mean? I think, see, that's the kind of stuff I think people get caught up in, like, only, well, what do you think about it? If it was in hybrid mode where it was controller, then you got as many audio tracks as your computer can handle.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like in hybrid mode, you're not limited.
Right. There it is. That's the key.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people that the standalone devices in today's era are really made as enhancement tools for creation. Yeah, because we all know at the end of the day, everything ends up on a computer.
Right.
It ends up on a computer when it's being mixed, when it's being mastered, it's being done on a computer. Unless you're one of those vinyl only dudes, like, you know, like our friend Aaron, that, you know,
vinyl only, a tape only.
Yeah, vinyl only, tape only, which is good, but there's certain limitations that you have when it comes to that. You don't have certain quality, certain precision with certain things because you're not using a computer. A computer is made for calculation and precision. So, I just feel like this new force is not for the regular MPC user. It's for the person that wants to be that's going to be introduced to the Akai brand, but it's coming from the new school way of production, which is essentially clip based. Which is, here's another thing that it has that I admired. When I saw the 64 pad layout with the progressions mode, it made more sense than it did on the MPC-X.
Right. That makes sense.
Because the layout, I was like, whoa, you can lay out all those progressions over all the 64 pads. It visually is more stimulating than on the MPC-X.
I think the same thing. I think the same thing about even just sample chops. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about, like, because, you know, so there was a point when I first moved from Chicago to LA, I sold all my gear, which I didn't have much gear, but I sold it all, including my MPC 2000 XL. And I started using Logic and that was right. I was actually using Logic when it was still PC based. And then Apple bought it. And then, you know, I started using Logic exclusively after I got my first Mac around that time. So I was used to, at that point, starting to get into taking long samples and chopping it all up and having, you know what I'm saying, dozens and dozens of chops and going through. What I like about this, and that you spread across the keyboard and you just kind of got it, right? But with this, what I like is you get the 16 pad bank A, B, C, and D, but if you chop something that has 32 chops or 64 chops or 48 chops or whatever it might be, it's all going to be right there in front of your face. And it may inspire a different mode of creation because with 16 or a 4x4 grid, you really on that bank, you may switch banks. And I know cats were really good at switching banks to fly a sample in or just go back and program it accordingly. But this kind of inspires a different mode of creation. You got those 64 pads right there of all your chops where you could go in.
I can tell you, like, as a finger drummer, like I love finger drumming, and I'm always like, man, I do wish I had access to my other banks. Like personally, my favorite finger drumming controller right now is the Machine MK3. Like I really love it. And that being said, I got the push and I was really excited about all the extra pads on there. But what I don't really love is the way that in general, they kind of, you know, and I say in general because you can modify this stuff, but it uses kind of like general MIDI mapping across a lot of it. And a lot of the kits that you already load up from Ableton are laid out in a way that's not intuitive to the finger drummer, right? Like I like my kick on the 1, my snare on the 2, close hi-hat on the 3, open hi-hat on the 4, and then stack up from that, right? So when I saw this thing, I'm like, man, now I can kind of like it defaults to laying out banks like that, you know, to where you have section, you know, one bank here, one bank here, one bank here, one bank here, and I can section it out like that. Then on top of that, you have the freedom of editing like you do on an MPC, like chopping up the sample like you do the MPC. So for me, that's really like inspiring. Like that's one of the things that makes me more inspired about this than just going push and live. You know, I want the more expanded features of having 64 pads as opposed to just 16, but the Ableton way of working with audio just wasn't doing it for me. So this is kind of like a nice way to bridge that gap between moving into that more clip workflow and then not having to lose that MPC sample editing functionality at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's the key. That's why I say it's kind of the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? You kind of get some of that stuff from both spaces. And quite frankly, I didn't expect it to be a decent experience. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I've been using it for the last month or so, almost exclusively. Not even almost exclusively.
And I can remember
MPCX has been off.
You used to fight using the live or the push, excuse me. You used to fight that. Like, because we've all had these conversations between me, you, and St. Joe. Like, we kind of have talked about this stuff a lot, going back and forth between machine, MPC, and live, Ableton Live, that is. And I remember vividly, you didn't gel with that, and you stuck strictly to the MP. And it's like, you know, so this is an interesting way to kind of break the mold of the typical MPC user, which is really important for Akai, in my opinion. They need to get away from that. Oh, we're only going to do it this way because this is what the legacy user uses.
Right.
They got to get rid of that and start moving forward in their own workflows. Like it's
pretty soon the legacy user is not going to be able to see the screen.
Exactly. Like old heads, you know what I mean? And
it's like, is that a hi-hat, man?
and you know, and there's nothing wrong with sticking with your old gear either.
No,
like
it's not
a lot of the old heads that want that old workflow, guess what? Your old machines haven't gone anywhere. Go, you know, use your 2000 XL, use your 3000, you know, whatever. Like, that's fine. I still have mine. I like it. Yeah. But if I want to work quickly, I'm not grabbing my 2000 XL. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even really trying to grab my live all that often, except for the fact that I'm creating specific things for it. Like, editing on machine is like, man, I'm like, bam, bam, bam. I can move through sounds. I can chop stuff up and move through it so quick, you know? So to see them kind of finally breaking their own molds a little bit and be willing to evolve as a company is huge. And it's,
that's the key. I actually love that idea because you got kind of two factions, right? When it comes to something like Akai. And I think the same thing would happen if EMU sort of came back and put out a SP1200. You know, like you got the purest sort of mindset that like, yo, that's not the way we've always done it on the MPC. Why are we even doing all that? I get that. Like I've even felt that way before too. But at the same time, I think, you know, it's kind of like any genre of music. If the envelope is not being pushed, you're not growing, and you're not allowing other people to kind of jump in and express themselves. Expression is not a capturing of a moment in time, and that the creativity is not the capturing of a moment in time. It's about the expanding, the growth, the pushing the envelope. And I think any company like Akai got to keep in mind, you need to pay attention to your core audience and all those so-called old heads or whatever, which I could be considered one myself, but you need to pay attention to them. You need to cater to them. But at the same time, it's in your best interest to expand your offering and start to make sure that you're growing, because the last time they didn't have that thought process, Machine came about. You know what I'm saying? And when Machine came about, Ren was years and years out still. Well, I don't even know if it was a thought or whatever the case, but Machine took over. A lot of MPC users went over there, and a lot of them are still over there.
I did.
Right. So as long as you only cater to your core audience, from a perspective of like a company like this, you could leave yourself in the dust. I'll say, in comparison, I was listening to an audio book where this dude used to be the CEO of Blockbuster, and they had the opportunity to buy Netflix, and they were all like in a boardroom saying, that's ridiculous. The people will always want to come to a store and get a physical product.
Not me.
Weir's Blockbuster now.
I want to
be
watching the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Blockbuster's in Minnesota, if I recall.
Yeah.
Where the last one is?
It's probably a strip club, though.
Wow. That's a whole other kind of block you're busting, dude.
Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Blockbusters.
Yo, let's move on to
let's go.
I want to get into the goofiness. Let's talk.
Oh, wait. But just before we go,
no.
Killer Tracks was just saying he dug the track that I was playing in the review, and yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, bro. I just want to say that my plan is to release.
Sell it for $5,000.
I got artwork being done for a album that I'm putting out with all the beats that I've been making lately. Because the reception has been pretty cool. So this album is actually going to be called Rum Punch. So expect that. It's going to be soon. All right, now we can move on.
That beat's actually for sale for $5,000. I'm his manager, and if you want to talk to me, we can talk business. I only take a 25% cut. My fees is high. So yo, this pocket operator, I wanted to get it the pocket operator modular.
Oh yeah, the pocket operator.
I want to get into it.
Don't start with the hate, Ken.
What are you talking about? I love it. What are you talking
about?
I've been throwing you guys off this whole time, so that when we get on the show, I could be like, oh, I love it. No, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. We had conversations about this thing, and when I saw it, my initial reaction was meh, because I look at it like it's not necessarily for me, but parts of it are in a way. So the part about it that excites me is just the fact that it's easily modifiable to be put into a Euro rack, which is cool. Mm-hmm. The part of it that doesn't interest me at all is it looks like the build quality and the aesthetics of it just don't work for me, which is funny because I'm usually the last guy to talk about that, you know? Mm-hmm. I hate how that battery pack is kind of just sitting in there like with the folded tabs like that. But I love the fact that it has a built-in speaker. So
what bothers you about the battery, Ken?
Something about
it's exposed? Well, is that what it is?
Well, a couple of things. One, the fact that they're using AA on there. I'm like, why not just put a LiPo like USB battery pack and do it that way? Like it could have been, I don't know. I could think of other routes of powering it, but that's besides the point. Like to me, the bigger issue is more like I'm not really feeling the overall aesthetic of it. Like it just, and at the price point, it's like it might be affordable for a full-size modular kind of thing. But to pretend that $459 for a piece of music gear that you got to fold up and put together yourself in that way is considered affordable now. Like, I don't know that I agree with that.
Minimum wage just went up to 15 something.
Oh God. Yeah. Over time.
Why'd you slide that way?
That's not tomorrow. Go to your local McDonald's and ask them how many of them are making 15.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead and say it.
$15, yo. I'll get me one of these joints because I'll be flipping hella burgers.
That's what I'm saying, yo. So what's the price?
Affordability is a relative term, regardless. I'm just saying that in that same price tier, it's like I can think of other pieces of gear that offer an awful lot of functionality with a higher build quality.
Yeah, but build quality is something. Okay, I'm gonna say this because I know you can. Build quality at your standard, the guy that likes wood, the guy that that likes yeah, you like no, but I'm just saying I just feel like there's a certain Ken quality of like Ken will pick something up and the first thing he does is look at the knobs and he's like, yo.
I disagree. That's more on, man, look, I have to grab a couple of things to show you some specifics, but my point being is that I'm okay with like things being kind of like slapped together, this, that, and the third. But when I start paying a premium price for that, it better not be, or it better have a crazy amount of functionality.
Well, I don't know. I think that's a huge assumption though to say it's slapped together. It is put together in a way that I've never put anything together. It's very IKEA in its approach.
but that's the point. That's
yes, it is. It's kind of like the builder, the DIY sort of deal.
Yeah. So for me, I'm just like, well, for $500, I get a dope like touch surface keyboard controller thing that has CV out that I can use with other things. I could take it over to my Eurorack and use that same controller with that, and it has a built-in sequencer. So already you're getting a touch surface controller, a built-in sequencer. That's already something that, like, yo, there's a lot of value in that for dudes that don't have that.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just feel like when I saw it, it didn't get me like. I saw people that were showcasing like this insane amount of excitement about it, and I'm like, realistically, there are so many options to get into modular these days at low price points that it just, I don't know. Ollie,
I get it.
Maybe I get one for my 4-year-old, but like it just doesn't.
So I'll tell you this, Ken. What I've realized when Teenage Engineering sent me, the first 3 POs, the pocket operators that they built, it was within the first, I don't know. I mean, literally, they were just coming out and they sent them to me, and I acknowledged that there was a certain use case for them that was not mine. Didn't mean I wouldn't personally use them, but I gotta acknowledge the vast majority of cats that use these are killing them damn things. I mean, and then that same user that might use the OPZ or the OP1, those, like, I know people that have hit me up, or I was having conversation with on IG that was like, I already bought it. Like, they pre-ordered it already, because that's that lane right there. The same people that use Vulcas, the same people that use, you know what I mean, the OBZ and the pocket operators are gonna murder for that thing. And some of those are the most creative folks.
So every company has to have 2 kinds of products, or maybe 3. You have to have the low tier, the middle tier, and then the bins. You know what I'm saying? So for Teenage Engineering, their highest price thing is their OP1. That's their highest price thing.
Yep, it is.
All these other devices are still priced way under the OP1. So it's just like, this is a good entry. Plus, if you get an OPZ and one of these things, now you have a device that you can get CV out of the OPZ and sequence any of these modular things. It's a cool, like, little ecosystem that they're building, which has that IKEA, DIY, vibe. And I think that's really cool, and it appeals to certain demographics. But that demographic is being blurred now. Like, all the things we're talking about, like even the Force, Teenage Engineering, all the demographics are blurring, where like all these communities are liking everything. Problem with a lot of us is we don't come from that blended demographic. A lot of us have an absolute demographic. We come from a certain time and place, and it just doesn't speak to us. Like, even quality of what a lot of the new demographic like is different to what.
Oh, it's very different, man.
Yeah,
listen, I could put this, and you know what was funny is even this MPC 62 that I got sitting over here is the chance, part of it is plastic, but most of it is metal, and even that's a different build quality, vastly different build quality than something else. I could point at any number of things around here that's just vastly different than that.
Yeah, so for me, I'm always looking at things generationally. I'm like, man, sometimes I have to step aside when I don't like something and realize, you know what, I just don't have the same palate as some 15-year-old. And you know what, he grew up with everything made out of plastic when my Transformers were made out of metal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I gotta say though, I just gotta say, I'm looking at it. The touch controller looks a little bit interesting. I need to see it in action and kind of check it out. So the touch controller, maybe. I just, like you're saying, like, I just don't necessarily think it's for me. I will be interested to hear it, but the thing about it that has me like legitimately interested is, so obviously this is just the start. They're obviously going to come out with way more modules for this thing, and that's where I'm going to be interested in, because right now it's all, the run-of-the-mill kind of modules are in there right now.
Yeah, it's the basic.
What I want to see is when
the basic stuff.
When they start putting out a module with some DSP in it, and they start utilizing the stuff that Teenage Engineering is known for, you start putting that stuff in individual modules, which then I can modify and slap into my case. Like,
that's where it gets really interesting.
And I get it, but as a guy that works in a company and we put stuff out, I always know, man, we got to introduce it with
bare minimum.
We gotta ease it in, and I know it doesn't impress Ken, because Ken ain't.
Hold on, no. you're forgetting, like, they already detail how to put them into Eurorack. Like,
No,
it's not like a thing of like either or. It's no, like these modules, like they're encouraging you to do that. It's all on that same standard so that you could easily put it into Eurorack. So to me, it's like it's a great idea for them. Like, I mean, not only by building your own modular system,
as a matter of fact.
Yeah, by building your own modular system, they're going to be printing cash like that because, you know, people are going to want more modules, and the only place they're going to get them is through Teenage Engineering. So they make money off of the standard alone. You know what I mean? So it's good for them, like, regardless. And I don't hate it. It's just not for me, and that's fine. Like, not everything has to be for me.
Also,
that's another problem that I think we get into now. It's the information age, where we have access to all this information, all this stuff. Everybody kind of thinks they need to get whatever the new thing is. Like, you don't have to like the stuff. That's not. I'm not speaking directly to you, Ken, but I'm saying, like, in general, for people, like, I think we got to get out of this idea, like, I don't need everything. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to even like everything.
I'm speaking very vainly. I want this thing just to have it as a centerpiece or something in my studio. Like, it's very stylish too.
You know what it reminds me of in a way? Do you remember the oh god, who was it that makes the what's Arias Blaze's company called again? You know, he's got the one with all the little glowing wires coming out of it. Oh God, hold on.
Wires.
Oh, hey, look at this. You notice that it says out of stock already. They've already pre-sold their first run. Basically, it didn't say out of stock yesterday.
You call Vulca, Ken?
Huh? Yes, Vulca. Yeah. So the Vulca, it kind of reminds me of that in a way. Just the way the casing is and that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah. And I think this one is pretty dope.
People can see the Vulca Matter is what I'm talking about, I do believe.
So I think this one, the System 170, actually, I kind of like that more than the larger system.
I only got that square wave though.
But you can buy the module to throw in here though, right? Like, you can set it up any way you want, I guess.
Not with this one.
Oh, not with that. That's true. So this is okay. I see what it is. So the waves are up top. Is that what's going on? And then this one is LFO, square, filter, envelope, and VCA. So the square wave must be built in. I don't know how they're doing this.
Also, the speaker is on the back.
What's on the top? I can't tell what's that on the top.
That looks like the speaker up top.
It looks like the speaker.
But then on the right side, though,
that's outputs.
Yeah. Okay, that's outputs. So where the hell are the waves? What's
right there.
What's the oscillator?
You see it? Square is right under is right next to LFO.
Right.
Yeah, square wave oscillator.
Obviously. Okay, so I wonder how they're doing this. But see, the panels. So you could put whatever one you want in there, I think, because look at the panels. It's got screws on it.
Yeah, you could put whichever one you want in there.
Right.
But I think this system just comes with the square wave.
Right. And you can buy the additional, to interchange it. So I kind of like the form factor of this, I guess is what I'm saying. I think it was kind of brilliant the way they've done this, and the fact that this is a touch panel sort of keyboard. That you could use with your regular Eurorack, and it comes by itself too. So if you're like, well, I'm not interested in that, but I do want a touch surface for $150.
Corey, what's interesting to me is if you go back up to that red one, notice that there's a 1U. You can unscrew that up top.
Right, so you could throw other modules in there then.
So yeah, there might be
1U modules. There may be stuff in there.
Yeah, there might be some stuff there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like a really cool thing. I think this is going to be. I think this is just the beginning of what we're going to see them come out with.
Yeah. And then I was looking at somebody's. Let me see if I can find
this. I can't. This right here is the Vulca mescaline that I was talking about.
Right,
and what's funny is this is actually the same price point, or at least it was the same price point. I don't know if you can even get these anymore, but this was the Vulca one, which, he tends to make stuff in very limited quantities. So that was kind of interesting, but it just kind of reminded me of that in a way. So
yeah, I feel like I'll sneeze on that joint and break it.
I feel the same way about the Teenage Engineering one.
and that you could, I could respect that, because I got to tell you, I mentioned I went to Perfect Circuit Audio the other day or day before, whatever it was, often enough. So I was in there, and what is the joint? I can't think of the name. It reminded me of that, and it was made by the same people that do the 008 and the 002. What's their names?
Say, you're talking about modal.
Modal. So what's the little modal sense scope and
craft synth?
Craft, yeah, that looks that reminds me of the craft synth. But I was looking at the scope synth, and I gotta say, man,
that scope synth sounds pretty good.
It sounds pretty good, but I hate the build. Like when y'all talking about sneezing on it and breaking it,
I've heard that up. I was like, bad things about the build.
Man, it looked like you can squeeze it and break the thing.
Yeah, I haven't heard great things about the build. I have a couple of friends that have them, and they all kind of say like that's the one thing that they don't really love is, you know, they feel kind of cheap, but they are cheap. So,
and that's the thing. It's like they are cheap, and then when you look, okay, so Ken. So the price that this thing is, right? What's the price of the big one of these?
The big one is, I think, $499. Where is it at?
Okay, so it's $499, right?
Yeah, $499.
All right, this joint is $499. The Mini Brute is $649, right?
Yep. Mini Brute 2S.
Mini Brute 2S. Is it the same voice structure?
Not necessarily.
Like super similar though, right?
I'm looking. This one has, so the Teenage one technically has 3 oscillators, whereas the Mini Brute has 2 plus a sub. It's got a filter on here, LFO. Mini Brute has 2 LFOs, I believe. Has a much deeper sequencer. Has what else do we got on here? I'm just kind of looking at the build on these things on the 400. But yeah, so get to your point.
No, I'm just saying this doesn't seem like, it seems like I would pay this much for something like this.
And you probably would. And me, as you know,
well, look at your rack compared to my rack.
Right. That's the other thing I wanted to mention too, Ken. Like, you know, a cat with a rack like yours or a rack like mine's, like that's a different sort of customer, right?
Hold on. It's not no, because you guys are making it sound like I'm elitist about that kind of thing.
Nah, I don't think that's many years
of building modules. I don't think it's
and no, like that's not to me. If you want to look at elitist, value per dollar.
Corey's like, but you are an elitist.
No, I thoroughly disagree. You're talking about the guy who uses like, I'll use a $20 guitar pedal the same time I'll use.
No, I know that I'm speaking in just
my point is more like if you're talking about just strictly, you know, dollars per synth and that kind of thing, it's. Man, like they're also not producing in the same quantities as something like Arturia. So like it's not apples and apples when you're talking like that. You know what I mean? Like I do recognize that, you know what, if you're getting something from Teenage Engineering, it's not going to be produced nearly on the same scale. In the long term, it's going to have this niche appeal. You know, there are definite value aspects about it. I'm just simply saying they haven't come out with the modules that get me excited yet. And they may, you know, and when they do, I'll probably change my tune and be like, oh, snap, they came out with this crazy cow wavetable sampler module that's insane, and I got to have that. They put the KO in that thing and, like, do some cool stuff with it. I'm right there. I'm right there with it. Give me that.
Different variation of moose.
You'll see me sucking the teat of Teenage Engineering in no time. I love what they do. I'm just saying that this, as it stands currently, it only inspires me to the point where I'm like, okay, I can sit this on like my kitchen table and, you know, mess around for a little while, and that's cool. And then Ollie, my 4-year-old, is going to punch me and take it from me, and it's going to be his.
Yo, check this out. Accurate Beats is like the design, guys. A normal modular system looks like a bird's nest for geeks. The Teenage system looks amazing in the studio, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. I can get 2 things out of this. The value comes from I get a piece of furniture that makes a dope sound.
Word.
For me.
And we talked about this yesterday, man. Like, I think that the stuff that they designed for IKEA, I would not buy. Like, I think that stuff looks cheap and, like, it doesn't interest me unless I was, like, a bachelor living in a perfectly clean space that had no dust and, like, I didn't touch anything. Like, this kind of speaks to that same aesthetic. And to me, the design that some people are going to love and fall head over heels for, to me, is actually a bad thing. Like, I don't dig the design.
Hey guys, I'm speaking as Ken's friend. If you've seen his boots, you know the style he likes.
Hell, what are they, kinky boots?
The exact the exact opposite. And Corey wants to go there, so we'll go there. Why don't you pull out your fishnet stocking shoes so that everybody can see? You want to go there, we'll go there. All right. I wear man boots that got dirt on them because I work. All right. You, on the other hand, you walk around with your fishnet stockings that match your car. Don't even go that route.
It's hip hop, bro. I'm fly. That's what hip hop do.
Fly. Come on. See, and you notice how he doesn't pull out the fishnet stocking shoe. He's scared.
Corey,
this is not. Do you not know what these are? Go look at.
I'm not talking about them. Pull out the red ones.
Corey,
I can do that too. Just all night.
Corey, this is my style. This is my style all the day in the studio. I got to
please
stop staying comfortable.
Listen. All I'm saying is that Corey should shut his damn mouth, and that thing looks like it was designed, you know, for somebody living inside of an art museum and not actually touching anything. Look,
this is fly shit, is what you call this. And now everybody can't do this kind of thing.
Shoes got fishnet stockings on and lipstick.
That's right.
They look like the Christmas tree lamp.
I ain't afraid of that, and they match my whip too. Hey, that's why I'm from the west side of Chicago. We do these kinds of things.
Look, accurate beats. Look, this is all Ken's opinion. It's not my.
And Ken's opinion is like, you ever seen that episode of Friends where dude is like, it's a moo opinion? They're like, did you say moo? And he's like, yeah, it's a cow's opinion. It's a moo opinion. Nobody cares.
Oh God, don't even try to put me on like that. Look, there he goes, racial profiling me with the Friends show.
Look,
I watch Friends. There's black people on there.
There's three of them.
They be working.
I don't watch Friends.
Yeah, Corey, they be working. They be in the back serving coffee. Yo, look. I like the way this thing looks because I'm picturing it like if somebody walks into my studio, they're like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Oh, well, let me tell you. This is an introduction to Modular."
Yeah,
it's just striking, and I know the nuclear level that Ken doesn't like this because it's not in neon green.
Right. That's why if that yellow was neon green, Ken would be like, I gotta have that.
We actually talked about this yesterday too. And like I said, it would have to be two colors. They could do a seafoam green and they could do a lime green, and it would probably work. I'm just saying.
There a thing called seafoam green? Ken
Man, listen, if you don't know about seafoam, my old studio, the accent wall was seafoam.
Oh, okay.
Seafoam green.
I did a seafoam, and then a neon green.
Yo, seafoam. Yo, if we're ever at Home Depot together, and you're just like, you know what? Let me go pick up some extra seafoam green to touch up. I'm like, hey, Ken.
Let me pick up some extra seafoam green.
Hey, Ken, I'm gonna go pick you up a whole bag of nails for no reason.
Eat those.
Yo, put this on your pizza.
If they come out with pistachio green on it, we could talk.
You know what? I got a meeting with Teenage Engineering at NAMM next week. I'm gonna make sure to tell them to do a seafoam green version of that.
And and for the record, like I love those dudes. I got video of them dudes dancing around shoes before the OP1 even came out. Like they're great guys, and I love the fact that they aren't afraid to be themselves. You know what I mean? They're totally unabashed artists, and I love that about them. And I'm happy that they're doing it the way that they're doing it. I'll just wait until I see some modules that make me really excited. And then you know what? I'll be the biggest hypocrite, and I won't even care because you'll see it sitting up here somewhere, you know, and you'll be like, wow, Flux has that thing he was talking shit about. Yup.
That happens. Sometimes that happens. Honestly, there's been a couple things that I thought I'm never messing with that. And then it becomes something that I use the most out of everything. Conversely, there's things that I thought I would really love that I've gotten and been like, oh no.
And what happened with the Expressi? The expressive
touche. It just wasn't something that I dug, man. And I think the price point played a big factor in it, because I was just kind of thinking like $399 is a lot of
Why
chips.
don't you tell the story though about what you did, about how you bought that thing?
Wait, before you guys go, did you guys hear the sound examples?
We could pull them up so that other people could hear them. That would probably not be a bad idea. Hold on.
I didn't realize there were sound examples.
Yeah, they're up on here.
Page. Yeah. Also, I have a question, Ken. Is this actually plastic that it's made out of? Is it plastic?
I don't know.
I think that's metal, yo. Because I saw the video and I see how they're bending it to make it.
I think it's metal. Hold on.
It could be metal. Yeah.
I think it's
metal.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I'm just like, oh, that might make a huge difference of what it is.
You're not wrong about that. All right. So hold on. Let me try this. I'm gonna try and play this, and guys in the chat, let me know if this works. If you guys can hear it. It sounds pretty clean, to be honest with you. The Korg modular, Vulca modular, in my opinion, everything that I've heard from that sounded a little bit on the grainy side, but that could also be, you know, YouTube and Instagram and that kind of thing. Let me play this other one here as well.
Oh, hold on. They're saying copyright strike. Accurate feedback.
I don't know if that would be a copyright strike, right? Because this is like a promo thing. It's not like necessarily somebody's songs.
And it's also not playing directly from another YouTube thing, so we'll be all right.
I think it sounds pretty good.
That filter sounds pretty round.
Yep.
All right, and one more. Here we go. Analog farts are always good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
The more gas, the more gas, the more authentic it is.
That sounds like lactose synth.
That should be the name of our first synth, guys.
Lactose. That's perfect.
Those filters don't sound steppy.
Yep, that's not a
well, they better not. They should be analog.
They don't sound steppy.
That's dope.
All right, that's enough of that. I don't know. It sounds okay to me. Like it doesn't sound. It sounds. It sounds clean, but it didn't like. No. It's listen. It's just that there wasn't anything there that was like surprising me, like, oh wow, that's amazing, or anything like that. And that's fine, like, you know, because this is the first offering of it. I fully expect them to do like more interesting things with that platform. That's all that there is to it.
I got you. And from the looks of the buttons and all the controls, it looks like you can use the OP1 accessories to put on the buttons. It's got
that print your own kind of vibe.
Yeah, this is super. It's actually pretty cool. What I'm trying to figure out, how do you change the batteries on the
probably slides out.
Probably slides out, right? Because I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to bend it every time I want to, like.
When the battery dies, you just throw it away.
Yeah, it's a disposable Euro rack.
Which would actually be kind of fire if there was like a disposable Euro rack case.
No, that would not be fire. No, landfills do not need that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like you have the most fire set ever.
But if you look at these modules, I'm sharing my screen. You should be able to see it. Like if you see how in this purple case here, they got the modules kind of sliding out. That's the actual modules, and then you just clip them into the back there and then screw them in. So it makes me wonder about like down the road when they come out with different modules for it, what happens to that faceplate? You know what I mean?
And they probably start selling different faceplates. I was on one of the guys from Teenage Engineering's Instagram, and I saw a bunch of different faceplates, different colors than this one, but it looked like it was for that 170 system. So it's probably going to be a matter of once they start introducing new modules, I'm guessing that they'll start introducing new faceplates too.
Well,
and that'll probably become refined over time.
Honestly, this is actually a cool opportunity to paint your own stuff too, and like kind of customize it yourself, because it's such a blank slate. It's cool that you can kind of add your touch of flair to it. And I'm looking at the cables that they're using too. I'm trying to figure out if those are stackables.
Nah, it doesn't look stackable, but they are regular patch cables though.
No, they have like an orange tip, and then there's like another thing that comes out of it.
Ken, what happened? Why did Ken do that? Okay.
Yeah, Ken. Corey, look at the cable. It has like an orange tip to it. That's a regular patch cable, I guess. Yeah. Huh. This is really.
It's just a tip. I think it's just a tip for.
Yeah, this is really interesting, man. Like I'm like super interested in what's happening here, because. Yeah, man.
I think it's dope. But I'm curious how big this is. That looks actually pretty small. The 170 system looks pretty small. But I like the format of it. I like the whole thing about it. I really dig that. I can't front though. I like the larger one too. And honestly, I gotta say, for me, I'm not into pocket operators because of the size. That's why I didn't dig them, right? But for something like this, to be able to get like that teenage engineering sort of the way they do their instruments and get it in a size format that you can really kind of put your hands on and dig into, that's not like a micro size format, I think this is real dope.
Yeah, man, this thing is super dope. I'm excited. I think it's going to be cool, and the fact that we've been talking about it for so long is that
says a lot.
Yeah, it's a really good thing, because I think it's just filling small pockets of need for different audiences. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
So hold on, I'm gonna go to the next thing. I don't know where Ken went. He's in the chat, but he's now.
Oh no, I'm here. My video just stopped working, and hold on, I'm trying to share my screen real quick because you guys need to be aware of this. Let me see. I gotta break this thing.
That sounds.
It's pretty important. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm kind of a big deal. So take a look. Here it comes. Bam. Can you see that?
Oh my gosh.
A friend of my buddy Jim over at Neutron Sound just did that. He photoshopped it.
He photoshopped it in record time for you.
So shout out to Jim. And I highly recommend that everybody check out what Jim's been doing. He's been making some really cool Eurorack modules. And but I still stand by. He's the guy who makes the Orgone accumulator. So
I need one of those. Jim,
yeah, I think it's fantastic. So
Jim, I need to get one of those Orgone accumulators, man.
It's amazing.
I need to get one of those. Anyway, yo, that looks horrible in green, Ken.
I hate you. I hate you.
Why though?
Listen,
yo, that joint is so unappetizing, yo.
Oh my gosh!
I don't understand your aversion to green. What's wrong with you?
It's not that I don't like green. It's too much green. Is just like.
All right, well, listen. Let's move on before I have to slap you around.
All right, so yo, let's go to oh, you know what? I'm on my site, BeatPPL report, and people out there should check out my man here with Don't Make Beats Like Me, Chris Rux. It's a dope book.
Hold on, I'm going on the site.
All right, so I want to go to the Korg Vulca drum and Vulca modular. So we're noticing a theme here, guys, right? All of these companies are trying to dip their toes into modular. What do you guys think of that?
I think modular is the future. That's what I think, personally. I think everything is going there. And yeah, people better start learning it.
So I went modular back in like 2012, AD. Somewhere around there. And now that this stuff is all like becoming way more affordable and catchy, I'm just gonna have to leave so I can stay hipster. Right?
Well, you know what happened, because I feel like that's what Bryce did.
I've been noticing about how badly I'm failing lately because I have zero succulents.
No, that's right. You're not synth bro enough if you don't have
Not synth bro
succulents
enough.
next to your modular rig.
Synth bro? Wait, is that a class of dudes? Synth bro?
That's
Yeah,
what
it's
it
a
is,
class
man. You
of
gotta be
dudes.
synth bro. You gotta do nothing but ambient albums with succulents and a wood desk, right?
Oh man,
It's
look
killing
at
me.
There it
He's
is.
synth bro.
Well, luckily, Steele wears.
No, you're a
Steele
synth
wears
bro
skinny
man.
jeans,
That's synth bro
and
man.
he's got black glasses with a little flare on the end. So you're plenty hipster enough.
Yo,
And you lived in Portland. How could you not be hipster?
bro, I've been a synth bro since before synth bro was a thing.
And Steve, you just proved how synth bro you are by saying that.
Man.
Oh
my gosh, I'm a synth bro.
man.
I have a little program. I was like, hi, my name is Daniel, and I'm a synth bro.
Now, what I'll say though about that modular, so a lot of people are crying about the fact that those little patch bay pieces for it, they only are rated for 200 uses, right, before they're expected to die.
Which one for Korg?
Those little those are like circuit board patch points. They're not meant for. They're not like a 1/4-inch jack that it's meant to take abuse, right? So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well, they're going to fail. Let me just say, for the synth DIY guy, that's going to be beautiful, because in a couple of years, there's going to be a flooded market of broken ones that are easily fixable. So I'll be looking forward to that, because then I'll modify the crap out of one of them things.
Man, I can't deal with them little patch cables, man. I feel like
I'm getting both of those things. Like, I'm getting both of those new Vulcas. They both look
great.
great.
I've vacillated on this a little bit. I'm not interested in Vulcas, but actually I do find myself, the more I hear some demos of this Vulca modular, the more I'm like, that's dope. I could rock that.
It sounds good, but I feel like I'll find myself not wanting to patch on it much. Because it's just
because of those little needle joints.
Yeah, I feel like.
Well, let me ask you this, man. Do you use your Vulcas? You have a few of them, right?
Yeah.
Do you use those as much as you use your pocket operators?
I actually do. I use them on a regular basis.
See, to me, like, I'm all about it, because I have a modified Vulca Beats that I love. I absolutely love that thing. I love the little sequencer on it with the delay and all that stuff that you can do. I dig Vulcas, man. I think they're mad fun to just keep in the car, like, whatever you're doing with them. Like, they're just fun. So, and that drum looks crazy. Like, it's got the Korg wave drum technology in there. Like, I'm all for it, man.
So Ken, I didn't realize that until you said that the other day, that the Vulca drum has the Korg wave drum technology in it, and that takes the value of that joint up way high in my mind, because that wave drum was cold.
Yeah,
it's a cold device.
Yeah, it's real cool, man. Like, I'm really digging it. I'm actually having a hard time with the Vulca drum more than the Vulca modular, because I have an analog rhythm. So for me, the Vulca drum is just like a little underwhelming, but I'm not. I think I can make some heat with it. Like, I think it's cool.
So the price points on them, obviously, that's the other key point there. So you got the Vulca drum coming in at $149. I think they initially advertised it as $169, and then the Vulca modular coming in at $199. Actually, and I think that may have changed back and forth between $199 and $129. I mean, $229 and $199. But at any rate, it's still pretty dope.
Yeah, I'm digging those, man. Like, I like it. And the Vulca FM was pretty cool. I know a lot of people that like the sample. The sample one wasn't really for me, but I don't know. I like, some people hate on Vulcas. Like, I just think they're cool for exactly what they are. You know what I mean?
I like Vulcas, but in this day, I've been using my iPad more than the Vulcas. And
that's the thing, is like, the iPad can do way more, and there's a lot of really, really powerful things on it. And I use my iPad a good bit too, but I do find myself enjoying, like, Vulcas have that hands-on hardware feel, and the iPad just doesn't. So there's that. I have things like that, that Arturia Spark LE controller. Sometimes I use that with my iPad, but I don't like always having a dongle hooked up to my iPad, that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to the new iPad that has actual USB-C on it, and then I can just do that.
I wasn't digging.
When's that happening?
It's already out. Yeah,
it's already out.
Doing that?
Yeah,
yeah. That's the new Pro.
I was not digging that Spark LE, man.
Oh, I like it. I actually really like it.
Like, I know Arteria is going to be dropping something new at NAMM, so I'm excited to go over to that booth and see what it is, man.
No comments.
I know, Ken. No comment.
Stay safe. Stay safe out there, kids.
Oh,
Yo, I'll say this, man. As far as the Vulca stuff that I've heard in the demos, like the modular one, it had a so it's clearly going after this West Coast mentality. It had a slightly more gritty, almost overdriven sound to it that I don't associate with that style of synthesis. And I just don't know if it's those particular demos or what. So I'm really interested to hear one in person. Like, it just sounded a little bit more rough than what I associate with something like a Vulca tone, you know, where you get that nice rubbery, you know, liquid FM kind of sound.
Vulca does definitely have a sound, and it is not, I mean, it can get aggressive, but it's still, you know, like you said, kind of rubbery, and it has smoother edges almost, it seems. It's kind of,
I feel like I'm more of an East Coast boy when it comes to synthesis. Like, I think that's another one of the reasons why some of the West Coast synthesis doesn't attract me, because it just doesn't, it doesn't do anything for me as much as East Coast synthesis does. Maybe just because of the genre of music that I constantly throw myself into. But I'm trying to break out of that because I do appreciate the technique and all the stuff that comes along with West Coast synthesis. So, but yeah, man, it's super dope. I think it's gonna be fly. What people are gonna do with it is gonna be really, really dope.
Well, did you guys see the ugliest announcement so far?
Which one?
Let me pull up some pictures real quick.
Oh, you talking about them chromes?
The cross. Yeah. This in my opinion is like the quintessential marketing fail. Like, this thing looks like straight hot buttered garbage.
Oh, that joint looked like an outfit that my parents dressed me up for church in.
Oh, damn.
Let me see if they have the I want to see if I can pull up the other colors. They do have a green one, and I'm telling you, green ain't saving it.
Well, you know what? I couldn't even post those on my site, man. I was just kind of like, yeah, nah.
Yo, them joints is ugly with a side of ugh. Yo.
Here we go. Look, here's the green one. Here's the green one. This is supposed to make me happy, and it's not happening.
Yeah, that one is.
Yo, you know what? It looked like they did a collabo with LA Gear. Remember them gym shoes?
Oh my
god. yo, them joints look goofy.
This thing looks like it's designed for like Japan, and that's it.
Yo,
oh my goodness, man.
Them joints look goofy, yo, like just goofy. And you know what Accurate did say? He said it reminds him of the Micron.
The Micron was actually, if you go back and look at the Micron, yeah, it had red sides, but it was actually better looking than this. Like,
it was better looking, but it wasn't great looking either, though. It was,
man, look at this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's horrible.
No way.
Oh,
that is just what?
Yo, I feel like I
gotta find the back picture too.
I feel like I would I would get a tan using that joint.
I
feel dirty even looking at it.
It's not cool. I don't even really have words for it, man.
I'm glad it's a limited edition though.
I'm glad that they came out with, you know, the Minilog XD and the Vulcas, you know, before announcing this thing. Because like, if this was like their first announcement for NAMM, like everybody would have been like, all right, somebody throw a brick through their window.
But here's the thing, like, is it different design teams?
Oh, I'm sure. This isn't marketed towards the same type of people at all either. So,
oh my god.
I mean, it's obviously not marketed towards our demographics, but I'm just saying that thing is.
I'm genuinely disturbed right now.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's like Korg doing Casio better than Casio does Casio.
Oh, you know what? I wanted to.
Which, by the way, Casio is supposed to have something at NAMM too. I don't know if anybody's interested in that.
You
Casio
know what?
always
They
said
they
they have
kind of they
something.
kind of have sleepers though, man. Because that one synth they put out, that JPW something.
The XW series that they did where it was like, yeah, but even that was like, oh god, have you ever felt one?
No, I haven't, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't sound that bad though.
I'll tell you what, when we were at NAMM last year and we walked past that, I've told the story before. We walked past the booth and he was like on that thing.
Oh, he was all over
He
it.
was
That's
making
true.
the face. He was on it, and it just sounded like straight Casio piano, like and not the Privia.
Hey,
Yo,
Accurate, are you coming to NAMM this year? Are we gonna see you in the States? Oh no.
yo, I wanted to show cats this, man, just because I ran up on this and I don't know if it's new or old or I don't know.
Polyvox. Yeah, that joint's fire.
Yeah, the Polyvox Mini, bro, by Elta Music. I don't even know why more people don't know about this. I went back a second
Did they
day.
change the name? Is this the same one that was originally by a somebody else is doing a Polyvox, and it's, oh god, it was basically like the name was, it was Nave. The company was Nave.
Yeah, that's another one though, Ken.
Okay, that's a different one.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, it's a different one. But I mean, the sound of this joint is pretty incredible. They did a really good job on this. So here you have an original one and then their recreation in mini form. And I think
it looks cool.
$500 even. And it really sounds good, man.
That looks
it's
cool
all
to
in
me,
Russian. Yeah.
And here's
look
one of
cool
the
and
things.
they sound good.
Here's one of the things. If you were like, oh well, I just want to get the vintage, you have to understand that like they're not, typically from my understanding, they're not rated for US power. So like you got to get a conversion transformer, this, that, and the third. Like, and of course the whole panel is not English, and you know there's drawbacks to buying a real Polyvox that this thing negates. So I like this a lot.
I like it a lot, man. And then, you know, actually, this one is in English, but I have to tell you, the panel on this particular one I'm showing is in English. But when I was at Perfect Circuit, they said all the ones that they have are in Russian. And so, like, you can see that here, right? And so I was looking at it at first, like, what? I couldn't even. Anyway, they brought this thing over. There's this little sheet that they showed me, like, here it is in English, so you know what you're touching, what you're doing. But yeah, it's dope though, man.
So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm over here
on
I'm on Synthtopia's site right now. And I've got the other one pulled up. This is another Polyvox clone type thing, and it's called the Nave, or excuse me, it's called the Polymorph, I believe, and it's by Nave. So here's the sound and everything too. Make sure let me turn my volume up.
Hey.
But that one's looking pretty dope too. Now, horrible name choice, because it's called the Polymorph and it's mono, and you know, but it looks dope. It looks dope. You know, I was just kind of thrown off by the naming convention because Nave, I was instantly thinking of Waldorf, and then Polymorph, I was like, well, is this some kind of No, it's mono. Okay, what's going on here? But yeah, so that's cool stuff, and you can get there are some Eurorack Polyvox stuff out there too, like Harvest Man does that, I believe. And, oh yeah. There's actually a good bit of Polyvox modules out there, like clones and stuff that you can get. But I don't know. It's always a synthesizer that kind of intrigues me, and they have they're known for like this kind of raw tone. So
it has a really raw tone, and it kind of it harkens back to, it just sounds kind of classic. You know what I mean? It's a really dope synth. And for $500 for that little tabletop, I thought it was pretty dope. I don't think anybody that gets that will be disappointed.
So I will say one area of NAMM that I've been kind of looking at is the guitar pedals, and what guitar pedals are coming. Strymon's got their Volante, which is
Yeah, the
basically
Volante.
Magneto. It's like Magneto that's
It's like
been
a
kind
stripped
of
down sort of Magneto, right?
yeah, it's Magneto that's been kind of refined to be more specifically like the what was that pedal called? The Echo Rec.
Mhm.
So that looks dope. I'm a big fan of Alexander guitar pedals. I'll show you guys this real quick because I'm a big fan of these. So if you guys know about Alexander guitar pedals, I'm a big fan of these guys. And this current platform that they're using is dope because they can kind of do different things. And I like the musicality of these things. So they've got a new pedal that I think 1 or 2 new pedals that are coming for NAMM. So that looks cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't
Oh, Eventide has a new pedal out too. I just
Oh,
saw.
do they?
Yeah, it's called the Rose pedal.
yeah, Blooming Rose or something.
That's
Was
right.
it Rose? Also, I think Red Panda has a new delay pedal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Red Panda is another one of them companies that I'm like, man, I want that tensor so bad.
Yes, sir.
Super dope.
But I am interested to see what this thing is like, the Strymon Volante that you were just talking about. That's pretty dope. It'll be nice to check it out and see what it sounds like on synths. I reached out to them, was like, yo, y'all need more synth demos, and they're like, we're working on it. So it'll be nice. Soon they'll be throwing out some demos of this on synths. So
Yo, if anybody wants to bless me with an Eventide H9000 just because you like me, I'm just letting you know.
$9,000.
Yo, you don't know how many I have that joint in the cart, and it's like one of those things that's in your cart that you're never gonna get. And I'm just like, yeah, I want it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of like I got a Moog one in my
Got a
cart.
Moog
I
one in
keep
the
looking
cart?
at it. Yeah, it's in my cart. It's sitting there.
Yo, honestly, I was thinking about the other day selling all my Eurorack and just getting the Moog one.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, but I don't know if I'm gonna sell my Eurorack, but
Yeah,
I definitely gotta get it.
I was like, nah.
No, but definitely, I've definitely looked around the studio a few times, like, yeah, this might go and that might go and that might go because Moog one.
Yeah, man. Because I'm like, man, but I definitely want to pick up some H9s. I think I want to get 2 H9s this year. Unless they come out with something new, you never know.
I have a feeling that I'm going to be doing something similar, except I think what I want to do is I want to get an H9 and then a space. Because I like, for reverb, I love having full, like, immediate hands-on control of all the parameters. And H9 is great for, like, you can hop through parameters pretty quickly. But I really, for reverb especially, I like that ability to just grab stuff. So it would either be the space or to be the Big Sky or something to that effect. Maybe an Empress. I don't know.
I would like to check out the Empress now that I've gotten my hands on a space and a Big Sky, because I want to see the differences between them. And I still got to do a comparison video for those two, the space and the Big Sky.
Oh, Mr. Valentin has the H8000. Oh,
well, tell him to send it on over. You open your mouth. Now it's got to be shipped.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, man.
I'll be your friend.
Yeah, that joint, yo. Because for me, I'm like, yo, I think it's fire, yo. Like, I've been watching so many videos on it. It's crazy. And Richard Devine got everything. So every time we watch it, I feel like he be having stuff before even like it's thought of. Like, hey man.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Hey man, there should be a sampler that's in your brain. All of a sudden, you see his Instagram with wires hooked up to his head, and he's like looking at his modular.
Like, yeah, I got it. I manufactured it for y'all already.
Yeah, man, I'm like, yo, this dude is next level, yo.
Yeah. So, yo, man, we're gonna go ahead and call it one. Unless y'all got something else y'all want to throw out there.
I want to give some good luck vibes. What's this guy's name? Like Low Hiss or something like that on Instagram. He's creating a Raspberry Pi based SP1200 recreation, and it's just like a little DIY project that he's kind of doing for himself right now. But I've been following the project, and I'll pull it up on my Instagram so I can share his IG, because I want people to kind of follow that. But basically, what he's doing is he's creating a very basic SP1200 recreation, but he's going through all the menu structure of the SP1200, and he's recreating the operating system from scratch, because that information, like the actual source code for the SP1200, Dave Rossum's gone on record and said that it's gone, like it's been lost to the wind. So yeah,
he's gone on record to say what?
It's the original operating system. That code is gone. Like
like
it's gone.
Yeah,
that's bad though.
That's kind of operating system though.
Yeah, build a new one with the same sensibilities. That's all. Like
no, I know. Well, yeah, right? But if people ever wanted there to be another direct recreation of it, you know, like it's gone.
I feel you, but I'm off that, yo. Like,
but he also said that if anybody's gonna do a SP1200, it's gonna be him.
So it's low_hiss, and I'll see if I can't show this real quick, because like he's let me see if I can bring this up so you guys can see it. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. So he's basically built it onto a shoebox. Like he photocopied the panel and then built it onto a shoebox, and it's just a cool little project that like dude is doing his thing, and you know I'm wishing him luck. So go follow low_hiss on IG. Tell him that I sent you. Yeah, tell him that I
a little better picture of that. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. Yeah, I see it.
And I'm not expecting it to be like anything, you know, ultra amazing. I just think it's a cool project that somebody's taken on themselves, and that's why I'm sharing it. You know what I mean?
No, that is pretty dope though.
So this is the guy, and you can see here. Actually, this is a better picture of it. You can kind of see the bottom is his shoebox kind of recreation of it, with the little microcomputer joint inside of a Pico computer joint inside of it, and obviously the one at the top is the actual SP.
Yo, is that the shoebox from the Dilla collection? That's the SP.
Nah, it's just a shoebox that he printed out.
I thought he was repurposing the Dilla collection shoebox with the SP.
That would have been dope, but that's a collector's item too.
That's what I was about to say. That's money right there, man. So hold on, I can show this. Hold on, see if I can. Maybe not worth showing, but okay. But anyway, he's kind of got it up and running, and it's just kind of a cool project that I thought, you know, man, when people go out there and they decide to take things on like that, I'm like, thumbs up, do your thing.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, and it looks like it's built with the same build quality as some of the new NAMM stuff.
Oh my god!
I'm playing.
He had to end it off with ended off separated.
Oh, that's it. All right, so yo, we'll check y'all out. Actually, I don't know if maybe we'll do some live presentation, 1 or 2 from NAMM, but St. Joe and I have typically done that kind of stuff, so maybe we'll get a chance to do something like that while we're at NAMM next week. But y'all can expect coverage from us. Ken, are you going to have an operative for fluxwithit.com?
I have some people that'll probably be there, and unfortunately, I won't be there this year. I got to skip, but I may be there as kind of like some Max Headroom type weird thing going on,
rolling around.
and you'll see me loud and crazy in all the NAMM videos. Watch, just find me on the internet. You're gonna see me like this behind Nick Bat. Behind, you don't see me ever like the Black Where's Waldo. That's
but you know what? On the real though, yo, still 1 year it was like that for me. Like St. Joe and Ken them kept pointing me out of the background of videos and stuff in there. Like, look at who's over there lurking. Look at who's over there lurking.
Yeah, that's great.
Word. So, all right, yo, this has been episode 43 of Beat People Podcast. Thanks for joining, y'all. We appreciate y'all. And we out.
Peace.
Peace.
Fluxwithit.com.